Hey friends, today I'd like to do like a more video on technique and on how just the guitar works. What we want to get to is we want to figure out how people get to what's called open E. Just to show you what I mean by open E is I'm hitting the 7th fret on the 5th string, trying not to touch anything else. And then my other two fingers are hitting the 9th fret on strings 3 and 4. So this one on the top is open, the 6th string, and the 1st and 2nd strings are also open. You're on the bottom of the guitar. Okay? So how do we get here? And as you notice, it's going to be something really helpful. There'll be a lot of songs written in the key of E where you'll want to use this, like for this is one of those keys that just works well on the guitar. But I want to figure out why in the world can I call this an E? We're going to talk about that and how bar chords are built on that as well. So first of all, the two main chords down here at the neck that are important for bar chords, where we get them from, or if you want to say the two main major chords, would be E. Now to show you how the E works, I'm going to try to show you without covering up too much. If you don't already know this chord, now I'm going to do it with these three fingers though, because I'm going to need this finger for barring, right? So these three fingers, I'm going to put my middle finger on the 1st fret, but the 3rd string from the bottom. Then these two fingers up here are going to be on the 2nd fret, on the 5th and the 4th string. So right now 6 is open, the top string is open, 6, and the 1 and 2 are open, just like we had with open E. Now, just so you know how that works is this is an open E already. The top string is already E, so there's no need to change anything. This string open is B, so is A, so we make it a B. This would be A, this would be A sharp, this would be B. So I have to do that. And that's how we end up with all these. All the notes that are not already part of the key of E, we turn them into the key of E, right? We've talked about that before. Then bar chords basically mean is we move everything up, but if there was things that were open, they need to be brought up too. So typically this E I just showed you is F, like that. It's just everything moved up 1 fret, right? Which would be equivalent to a half step in piano. So E to F, although I realize E to F, people sometimes call that a full step, but the point is it's 1 black to the next white, or 1 white to the next black, or if there is no black in the middle, white to white, like B to C, E to F. So this is F sharp, and this is G. Now, you can see that on this G that I just played, I'm hitting that note. That's the same note I hit when I play regular G, right? So that shouldn't be too surprising, at least that note's the same. And then A sharp, and then when we're barring the 5th fret, we're up to A, and then B, and then, well, that was A sharp, this is B, this is C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and back up to E. That's why these are marked on most guitars with 2 dots, right there, because that's the 12th fret when everything repeats. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then back to E. So this and that are both E's, just 1 octave different. Okay, then the other one is A. A you might already know, but A is going to have an open top string and 5th string, so 6 and 5 are open. And then the bottom string is open, but the other 3 are on the 2nd fret. And you can do it with your finger like this, but it's tough because you gotta not touch this bottom string. If you touch it, it sounds like that. And that again is the basis of bar chords. So this is a B flat, this is a B, this is C. Remember, this string right here is not being touched by this finger, but being touched by the bar finger. C, C sharp, D. But the point is you're just moving everything up. And again, since some things are open, that's why they have to be barred when they're moved up. Okay, hope you got all that. Now, first of all, we need to talk about power chords and then we'll get to open E. So power chords are those chords I just showed you, but you're only playing the strings that the power chord strummers are going to play. So like if you're playing punk rock or something, it's like, or other other things or whatever. But the point is I'm only strumming these 3 strings that I'm touching. I'm not touching the top string, I'm not touching the bottom strings. The power chords are just these bar chords I just showed you, either this one where you hit the top string and the 2 strings below it 2 frets up. So right here, here, and here. I'm not touching the bottom strings. And that's for G or G minor. And this would be G sharp or G sharp minor. And this is, and the power chords, you don't have to say the minor part. So A or A minor. And that's because that was built on this power chord. This is E, this is F, so that's the F power chord. This is F sharp, so that's the F sharp power chord. This is G, so this is the G power chord. And the same thing with this one. A, people turn it into these 3, so I'm not going to touch this top 6 string. I'm going to touch these 3. So this is a C. It's built off A, B flat or the B flat power chord, B or the B power chord, C or the C power chord. I hope you can see how this works. This is how they're all built on. So we've covered 2 big concepts so far. You might have to rewatch this to nail it, but you need to understand how it works overall. Then when you use the chord charts and stuff, you understand where they come from. See, now let's get to open E. So open E is helpful because you're going to see there's a lot of songs that are going to like it. I like this song. And I notice he plays the open E. He's using the open E to play the main chord in that song, and he's going to use that a lot of times, but of course he plays all these other things. But this is the open E right here. Now open E allows you to have some sustaining strings that you're not touching, so like they will play for a long time because they're not being touched at all. I'm doing that and not having to play down at the bottom. So how do I get to this E? Well, first of all, that E is built off the E power chord. So here's A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Now just to cover what strings we're covering, this one's touched here by the bar, the top string, and the bottom and the second string. So those are both on the 7th fret. And then the open E that I showed you earlier, the bar chord, I mean, these 3 strings 2, 3, and 4 from the bottom are on the 9th fret, built on that power chord I showed you. And it's E all the way up here. This would be D, this would be E. And then on open E, you play those same notes with this string, the 5th string, and the notes you get from the power chord. On the 5th string, the 4th and the 3rd string, but you leave open 1 and 2 and 6. Now, how do we know we can do that? Well, you might know that because of the E chord is built off of E, G sharp, and B. You might know that from piano or from just studying music theory. But you also can know it just because if this is an E, which you'll see on your normal chord charts, it leaves the 6th string and the 1st and the 2nd string open. So that means whenever I'm playing E, it must be okay to leave those open. So I basically just take my bar chord and then pull my fingers off the notes that I left open over here. I leave them open over here too. So I can't, the fingering still looks like this because this is the E, but I'm just gonna, okay, well the top string can be left open, I won't touch it. And the bottom 2 strings can be left open, I'm not gonna touch them. So now I'm only touching like this, all at the same time. So it's hard to see that, but these strings are not being touched at all. Okay, so that's where E comes from. You can use that for a lot of things. So for example, this is an A, right? Well, this is the A bar chord. I got it from E, and then from F, and then F sharp, and then G, and then G sharp, and then A. Well, same thing. On this chord A, the top 2 strings are open and the bottom one is open. It's not exactly the same as E was. E was actually the top string and the bottom 2 strings, but this one's the top 2 strings and the bottom string. But either way, you know that from looking at it. Then I think, oh, well, if this is A, I can leave those strings open. Whatever strings are left open here I can leave open here. So I'm going to make it like that. The bottom string should be open. This one can't be, so I'm going to mark it where it was. This one can't be, so mark it where it was. These four will touch down here. So I'm going to have to touch them up here. And that's where I'm touching them on this chord. So this is open A. All right, so that's how we get there. I'm going to be showing you some other songs that are in the open E chord, and they're not going to be perfect sometimes. Like there might be like an extra note in there. Normally the chords only have 3 notes put together, right? For majors and minor chords. Well, there might be an extra note thrown in, but people play an open E and certain chords so often, certain keys so often on guitar that we're used to it. In the same way that we're used to G, which this can be G and this can be, those are both real G. But this C2 right here, we're so used to hearing that in the key of G. But it's not really a C. A C shouldn't have this note, it should have that note. It shouldn't have a D, it should have a C or another E or something. But it shouldn't have this note. But we're so used to it. It's the same thing with open E. We're going to find that there's chords that aren't exactly the chords that we say they are. They're very close. It'd be like a major 7th or a 2, like a B2 or something. But they still work because we're so used to them. So open E, how do I make it? I got it from the bar chords. Got it from this bar chord. And then I thought, on this chord, which is E, I have this string, the top string, and those 2 strings open when I play it. So why don't I just open up those down here into that? Practice playing that. All right, until next time.